Hello, everybody. Welcome to this Voya STEM Fellowship Facebook Live event where we're going to be discussing encouraging academic learning and risk-taking. I'm Anthony Garcillo. I'm the 2014-15 Pennsylvania State Teacher of the Year, and I'm a teacher librarian just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
My name is Melissa Farrow. I'm the 2016 Idaho State Teacher of the Year and 2013 awardee for the Presidential Award for Excellence in Academic or in Mathematics and Science Education. I teach middle school science in Caldwell, Idaho.
My name is Debbie Grothus. I teach physics at Los Alamos High School in New Mexico, and I am a Voya STEM Fellow and had a great time with this group for 2 years.
Okay, so, whoops. I gotta figure out how to go back here. There we go. So we know that research, one of the people that we like for this is George Couros, shows that risk-taking and failure leads to innovation. So one of the things we've been exploring for these past year is, how do we as educators see how this idea of taking risks in the classroom plays out? How do we encourage it? How do we, demonstrate it ourselves? So what does that mean? So I'm going to stop sharing this slide here, and let's just have a discussion about what that looks like to us.
Well, I think one of the really important things about providing risk-taking opportunities in a STEM classroom is the fact that it really creates that authentic real-world experience and an opportunity for students to develop those skills that they're going to need when they walk outside of our classrooms. They don't get a chance to practice them with us. It's going to be really difficult for them to have those skills outside of an educational setting.
I think it's important, especially in a STEM classroom, for kids to be able to ask questions. And if they aren't willing to put themselves out there and take risks, they're never going to ask questions. They're going to stay inside themselves and just suck in everything you give them, but they're not ever going to contribute. And I think when they get out to the real world, if they don't know how to contribute to a problem, they're not going to be successful.
Well, I like what you said, Melissa, about the idea of the real world stuff. And Debbie, that idea about contributing, because let's face it, when we're asking our children in the future to be, productive members of society, you have to take risks, especially because they're going to be solving problems that we don't know already exist. And if we can give them as many opportunities as possible to take a chance and explore things that maybe they're uncomfortable with, that's only going to enable them to have better chance of solving some of the issues that they might see. I know for myself that I really try to infuse with my students that we don't learn anything when we succeed all the time. If you get 100% on an assessment, we don't know anything. I don't even know if you really truly know it. You could have guessed and gotten lucky. But if you get something wrong on an assessment, then that helps us know that there's something we can work for. So I really try to instill that in kids that, the more you take risks and you struggle, the more you're going to learn about yourself as a learner and as a student.
Yeah, I use in my classroom a lot the hashtag #failforward, and talking to my students about that body of research that talks about growth mindset, the power of yet, that when we're working through any type of assignment in my classroom, it's okay to not get it on the first try. It's okay not to come out of the gate and be the expert on something. As long as you're willing to accept that failure is authentic, failure is meaningful, and failure is where the learning actually happens. I think too often our current classroom environment, our current classroom setting, even though we train teachers coming out of college, is that failure isn't really part of our conversation. Failure is seen as negative. Failure is kind of a debilitating end result for a lot of our students. And so flipping that narrative and providing opportunities for our students to accept that failure is okay as long as you don't stop, as long as you continue moving forward. And I think that that's a mindset you're seeing a lot in STEM companies, STEM industry these days. What they're looking for in employers, or employers are looking for in employees, is people who can come out with those skills of learning from failure, learning from mistakes, accepting that that's where the true synergy of collaboration comes from, and being able to be productive with it.
I think for me in my physics class, when the beginning of the year, the first lab, I pretty much tell them what to do, and I know what they're going to end up with, and they know what they're going to end up with. But by the second or third lab, I make it so that they will come up with failure, that they will come up with things that are problems, specifically so that they can learn from it. Because if they know exactly what the outcome is going to be, they're not going to learn anything. But you would believe the great ideas and the great thoughts that come out of, like, well, wait a minute, that didn't work. So what are we going to do to try it out? And that's what a real world job is going to look like, right? Nothing, if you're coming up with something new, an innovative thought or innovative product, you've got to go through a lot of failure before you get there. So by the third or fourth lab that we do, I just give them the equipment and say, here's what you got to do. You got to prove this for me. Figure out how to do it. And
I think
mistakes are more informative than the successes.
I think there's this really inauthentic narrative that we've given to our students about who scientists and who engineers are. And I think when my students think of scientists, I can't be a scientist. Scientists get things right on the first time. Scientists know everything. Engineers, they just come up with an idea and they just develop the product and they go through that design process, but it's really a one-step cycle. So I think that it's really important for our students to understand that scientists don't get things right on the first try. And I think it's important to bring in that alternative narrative and sharing experiences where failure led to something else, even if it's something like, the old story about discovering penicillin because he went on a vacation and left his experiment running and got mold contamination and it killed off his bacteria sample. He was never attempting to discover mold. I just was speaking with a scientist from Harvard yesterday. And she was talking about new research on brain development. And she had this group of scientists and they were just studying mice brains. And they infected the mice with the virus because they needed that virus to deliver a marker to a certain portion of the brain. That's the part of the brain they were studying. Well, when they gave the virus to the mice started only making right-hand turns. And so that brought up this whole new line of research of why are the mice doing this? That wasn't an intentional part of the study. So I think even allowing students to take those bird walks sometimes is important.
I agree.
All right, so this brings me to, I think it's something else we should probably discuss here is how do you recreate or how do you create, I guess just initially, those types of experiences in your classroom that has natural risk-taking occur and then opportunities to learn from failure. Like, for example, I can give you, from what I do in the library here, when I have a lot of lessons that I want them to have to utilize the library as a resource to solve the problems. So I try to set up things that I know the first time they try to do it is going to bomb. But the way it fails, it teaches them something that's going to help them be more successful next time. For example, specifically this year, I did an activity where they had to build excuse me, the typical building a tower with popsicle sticks thing. But I changed it a little bit, whereas I didn't give them any resources other than here's 100 sticks. I want you to build with these. And oh, guess what? You only have 5 minutes. So whoever has the tallest tower at the end of 5 minutes, we're going to declare you the winner for today. Oh, and by the way, we're not leaving it up. You have to break it all down when you're done and put it all away. So now they have this constraints. They're all scrambling trying to do it. And some of them worked out great, but pretty much all of them ended up with a pile of sticks in the middle of the table because they started realizing, and then they're like, all right, this didn't work. All right, well, what do you need? Well, some of them went to go find some books about building stuff. So we were able to do that. But then they started coming up like, we need some sort of adhesive to make the sticks together. I said, yeah, but you have to take it apart at the end. You can't use glue. So then they came up with some resources. What about masking tape? What about some Play-Doh? What about just a foam brick that we can stab them into? So they were able to try some stuff and they still failed and they still failed. But we did this for about 6 weeks straight because I see my kids twice every 12 days or 6 classes straight. And by the end, their towers were like 80 centimeters high because they just kept on tweaking things each class and just getting it higher and higher. So it was a neat thing. So what are some things that the two of you do in your classrooms that might be similar to that?
Well, definitely design challenges. I think design challenges are important. I think that they can be easily embedded in science curricula and math curricula and in social studies curricula. I think that across the board, just sticking in periodic design challenges is important. But one of the things I do, and it's less of a particular activity and more of an overall strategy, is just multiple opportunities for improvement. Like, it's not a one and done in my class. When you complete an assignment, you can always redo it. You can always submit it. And as a teacher, I try and get away from seeing myself as an evaluator or a grader, and I see myself more as a person to provide critical feedback. So I have gotten away from writing grades on my students' papers. They don't get grades from me. I don't write percentages. I don't write points. I write comments, and that's all I do is write comments. And then we work off of standards-based grading. So we're looking at, eventually have you met the standard, or have you not met the standard? Have you demonstrated evidence? But it's constantly, can I redo this? Yeah. Can I fix this section? Yeah. Can I retake a test? Yeah. It's creating a culture of multiple opportunities to engage with a content idea.
And for me, I think I do things a little bit differently when it's a lab versus a problem kind of situation in physics. But with the labs, I literally give them almost no instruction. And again, you're right. I say this is sort of where you're supposed to end up. And they take out, say, the vernier equipment. And I'll say, here's all the stuff you can use. Whether they have to use them all or not, they have to make that decision. And what I like is when I have one group that figures something out, I tell them, that's awesome. Go tell everybody else. Go share everybody else, right? And then they can go around and go, look what we figured out. And then somebody else wants to do the same thing. So they want to figure something out as well. But I give them as much time as they want. If it goes into a second or third class, I try really hard to make the time to do that. We have a lot of curriculum to cover, but those are the learning opportunities that I think you can't recreate. I think those are the ones that are the most valuable. And if they can figure stuff out and share and collaborate, I think that is the most important thing. With problems and tests and so on, I give them as many opportunities they want to do it over again. They may not get as much credit the second or third time, but they always can get enough to make it worth their while. Redos are very important. I let them go until they get it right, on purpose, because otherwise they're not learning anything. And they feel like they can try until they get it right, which is important, I think, because that's real world, right? You don't just give up after the first try if you didn't get it right. You have to keep working at it until you do get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if either of you read the book that Joe Fothery had suggested, the Creativity Incorporated by Ed Catmull from Pixar.
Yes,
Pixar. And it was, and I try to tell everybody, like, if you don't want to read the whole book, if you start chapter 10 and really talk about this piece of it and how they use that, taking risks and failing forward and failing fast and learning from that, and how powerful that is, and all the things I think I'm hearing from both of you really makes that really important. We realize it's really important in the classroom as well. We only have a couple more minutes here, so what I'd like for you to just think about and share, how do you model risk-taking for your students? I think that's sometimes the hardest part for some teachers to do, because when you model risk-taking for your class, you're going to fail in front of them. So that idea of, not having all the answers or trying something and it not working in front of the kids, like sometimes people don't want to let go, teachers don't want to let go and lose that control of it. I know personally for me, I actually love those moments. I love those moments when I can look human in front of my kids and they can see and realize that, it's going to happen, and I don't have to freak out. I don't have to be like the world's ending. I can go, well, whoops, that didn't work. Let's try something else. Or, you know what, we don't have time to try something else today, but I promise you between now and the next time I see you, I will have tried something else. Especially for me, since I see my kids, so infrequently, but I see the same grade level class in different, classes. So I'll see 3 4th grades or 3 5th grades. After I do a lesson the first time, if it doesn't work and I take everything and bombs out, I can try to fix it by the next day. So I have multiple attempts to do it. And maybe the same cohort doesn't see me doing that, but they do sense that something has changed. So how does that look for you guys in your classrooms?
Well, I love that phrase, whoops, that didn't work. I think some of it is just the kids getting really used to hearing me saying things like, I'm not the expert on this. This is brand new to me. I'm trying this out. I'm really excited about this. I think you have to convey that excitement, that I'm not fearful to try something new. I'll bring in a new computer program. I'll bring in a new software. I'll bring in a new style of learning, and just be really honest with the students that this is something new for me. I don't know all the answers, and that we're going to figure it out together, and placing them sometimes in the position of being able to teach me. I don't know how that works. Figure it out. Let me know. When you figure it out, share it with the rest of us. I think that that's really important. I also think it's really important that we share our experiences with students as learners. I'm currently working on my PhD dissertation, and my students know that I'm going to school. And I think it's really important that I periodically share with them, you know, hey, I got a paper back from my professor last time. It was a 30-page paper and it had 28 pages of edits on it, and I have to go home and do those. I think it's really important for the students to see that we're still in that process of learning too, that we're not just the expert who has achieved knowledge, that we are somebody who's constantly on the journey of knowledge.
I even have a parking lot in my room, which is kind of behind my screen. I just pull my screen up and I write on the back of it with my whiteboard markers that, you know, we need to figure this one out. So everybody work on this, and next time we'll lift up the screen, see what it is, and what did everybody find out about it? Because I do an oops at least once a class period. It seems like always it's something. And they laugh and they're like, okay, can we figure this out? I said, well, who's going to do it? You know, somebody figure this out. But I have high school kids. You guys have younger kids, I think. But I put it on them a lot of times. Like, I don't know what it is. Somebody figure it out. Let me know.
Yeah, well, I'll even tell them that a lot. You know, that's a great question. I've never thought of the answer to that.
Yeah.
Go and Google it. Come back tomorrow. Let us know what you found out. So I think putting some of that ownership for the classroom experience on them makes you look more like a person who's going through that journey as well.
These are all great things. It's neat for, I think, kids to see that, you know, it is the journey that's important. And, you know, the destination's great, but, you know, if you're not taking chances, your journey's going to be pretty boring, quite frankly. So here, let me bring up our last slide there. We talked about the research, we answered this question. So we want to challenge everyone to do something after watching this brief discussion. And just that idea of encouraging everyone to take some risks in your classroom by modeling it and taking risks yourself. Because I do think that's one of the things that as educators, we're really fearful of, because maybe we don't want to, I don't know, look vulnerable, you know.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard.
It's hard.
That is hard, but, you know, talk about, you know, the idea of what we're trying to build empathy in students as well as make them great people. I think if they see us be vulnerable, that's going to help them with that empathy piece as well as make them great thinkers and stuff. So, hey, listen, Debbie and Melissa, I could talk to you guys for hours about this stuff, and I would enjoy every minute of it. So I appreciate your time and all the time that we've got to spend together in this fellowship. You guys are both rock stars, and I'm honored to be associated with both of you.
Well,
I love this. Good job.
Yeah. Well, and I would just challenge anybody who's watching this video today. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a first-year, second-year teacher, or a 15-year or 30-year veteran. I would say this upcoming school year, when school starts in August or September, pick one new thing that you are really uncomfortable with, one new piece of software. Go out there and, you know, Google like top 10 strategies in a classroom, top 10 computer software programs in a classroom. Pick something and try something that is way out of your comfort zone. It's going to hurt, it's going to be uncomfortable, but I think it's going to be really valuable for you and your students.
I think you should harness the knowledge in your building as well. There are people around you that know things that you don't know. And by challenging yourself by trying, hey, I know you do this really cool thing. Can you teach me? And, you know, if there's something that I do that you want, I'll teach you. And I think reaching out to other people and understanding more, I mean, collaboration is amazing. And that was one thing that I learned from this fellowship, is being able to collaborate with people across the country has made me such a better teacher.
Collaboration makes risk-taking so much more comfortable and
yes, yes, it does. It does. You have somebody to point at. You know, it wasn't me.
It was us. It was us.
There we go. Well, I guess in the moral words of JFK, we don't do these things because they're easy. We do them because they're hard. And if
moonshot thinking.
Like it's going to make the world a better place. All right, well, we're out of time. So, hey, you guys have a wonderful day. And for anybody who's watching this, thanks for watching it.
Thanks for watching.
See you guys.
Thanks. Bye.